Can you do a body scan on Jasmine and tell me how her body is doing?
Yes. She's good.
She's good. She's healthy.
She's healthy. Her feet hurt.
Why do her feet hurt?
She needs new flip-flops.
Oh, I see. What kind of flip-flops?
Whatever she chooses, just new.
Okay. Is there any other purpose for her feet to be hurting?
No, she's been dancing a lot.
Oh. Is that also hurting her feet or no?
A little.
Anything you want to tell her about that?
No.
Well, does she need to have her feet hurt now that she got the message of the new flip-flops?
No.
Can you heal her feet for her now then? Since she got the message that she needs new flip-flops?
Yes.
Thank you. What are you doing to do that?
Just sending new energy to them.
Is she feeling or sensing anything as you do that?
Not yet.
When will she notice?
This afternoon.
Okay, thank you. How is the rest of her body?
It's good.
It's good. She had some questions about timeline jumping. Could you tell me how she could jump into the version of herself that she would like to be?
Yes. First, she must create the version of herself she would like to be. What does that Jasmine want? What does she look like? What is she doing?
And do you mean create it visually in your mind?
She could create it visually in her mind. She could write it down.
Oh.
She could say it out loud. And then she must let go or collapse the timeline that she's currently in.
How do you do that?
Same way, just by writing it down, or saying it. It is not a... It is more of a... What is the word I'm looking for? Making the former timeline neutral, not being desperate for the new timeline.
How do you do that?
Just to create neutrality around what is. Your emotions don't need to be happy or sad or guilty or full of blame. They can just be neutral, and you let it go in a neutral way.
So if you want to create a new timeline, first you create it in your mind, or you write it down or speak it, and then you have neutrality around the timeline that you're currently in, with not letting it bother you. Is that what you mean?
Precisely. Not making it emotional, not having an emotional charge to it.
Oh, and if somebody does this, is it easy to jump into a different timeline, or is it hard?
It is easy.
Okay, so that's all they have to do?
Yes.
Okay, and do you have to speak it or write it down a lot in order to jump into this new timeline?
It will depend on what you believe.
Okay. Okay. But if they did do that, it would be easy for them?
Yes.
What happens when you jump into a different timeline? Do you actually physically go into a different timeline, or no?
No, your current life just changes to fit the new timeline.
Could you be in a different timeline than the people that you live with, or is that not possible?
That's interesting. It would depend on the impression that you... This is hard to articulate. You may be in the same timeline together, but be having wholly different experiences of that timeline.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yes. You can be together in a relationship and have an agreed upon timeline, but one of the people could be experiencing that timeline in a very different way than the other person. One could be enjoying this timeline, current timeline. One could feel trapped by it.
I see.
Yet it is still the same timeline.
Are we shifting into different dimensions? There's so much talk about a split where one group goes into basically a different Earth.
We are not. This is not. The timeline here on Earth, the current timeline, is its own thing right now.
What do you mean by that?
This is what's happening here is what needs to happen here right now. So there will be splits, and everyone has their own experiences, but the overarching timeline is imperative.
What needs to happen right now?
Well, many things need to happen, but mostly human beings need to attach to, or pardon us, human beings need to detach from this idea that they are not whole.
Oh, tell me more.
They are always trying to become when they already are. And so they suffer and they have pain and they pretend to be less than they are. And that keeps them in a constant state of despair and suffering.
What kind of advice would you like to give humans then?
To remember that you are God experiencing yourself.
How do humans understand that? How can they go about understanding that?
That was a very big question. But the first step is in remembering who you are and what you came here to be, and not subscribing to anyone else's definition of who you are.
How do you remember who you are if we are born with forgetfulness of this information?
By waking up.
What do you mean by waking up exactly?
Well, humans live in a society where we're being put to sleep all the time.
Why?
Because that's the control and power structure. It works better when everyone is asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is important to unplug from this machine, to remember that you are lovable, to remember that nature is here for you, to remember that abundance is everywhere and that there is no lack.
I see. And who am I speaking with now?
Zandra.
Mm-hmm. And so how do you know Jasmine exactly?
I am a version of Jasmine. It's higher consciousness. I am essentially her.
And how does that work exactly?
How does what work?
How are you a version of her? Are you having a lifetime now?
I am a higher dimensional being. I've been having a lifetime for eons.
What is your lifetime like?
Well, now my lifetime is whatever I choose it to be.
What do you like to do?
I like to come here and help Jasmine and guide her. I like to drop into the forest It's beautiful to be on Earth.
What do you do when you're in the forest?
Play.
How do you play?
I run and jump, spin around, have fun. Earthly delights.
Mm-hmm. I see. And you love to be in nature? Do you have nature where you normally live?
We do have nature.
Where do you normally live?
In the Pleiades.
What is it like there?
It is beautiful.
Can you tell me about it?
Yes. There are very many of us higher dimensional beings there. It is full of love and very few problems, very few issues. We mostly have figured out everything that you struggle here with on Earth. But because of that, because there's a lack of mess, there's also a lack of polarization.
Mm-hmm.
And we like to sometimes have the dichotomy of polarization, and we like to come here and feel and be messy and be joyful and have tears.
Sometimes you like that because there's none of that where you live.
Correct.
And you said there is nature where you live?
There is. It's beautiful.
Is it the same as here, or is it different?
It is different, but it is beautiful.
How is it different?
Our sky is pink and purple.
Mm-hmm.
Our grass is not grass. The ground is not the same. Earth has oceans and many different biomes or biospheres.
Mm-hmm.
And the Pleiades do not have that.
They don't?
It is magical to look at. It is beautiful. It would completely astound you. Conversely, it is boring sometimes because it is always the same.
Do you feel this boredom?
I feel malaise.
Tell me about that.
Well, at this point, it's very easy to be bored.
Well, I thought it was blissful there always.
Blissful is not always exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Earth is exciting
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much happening. The pace is fast.
Mm-hmm.
And although the pace at which things actually occur in the Pleiades is much faster,
Oh, tell me about that.
Earth is very dense in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, we can have what we want. Immediately we have telepathy to speak to one another from far distances. We do not have emotional turmoil.
Mm-hmm.
We have elevated from all of that.
How did you elevate from all of that?
Well, we've been working towards that in a very for a very long time, but also in a very fast fashion. We have agreements amongst our beings to reach higher points of ascension, and we are not in disagreement. We are harmonious in these agreements, and so we are working to that end at all times.
Oh, how did you get to that point?
It's a collective agreement. We just came there with it. We've always had it. This is like the basis of our society.
I see.
Whereas the basis of society on Earth is to muck around and figure things out. Human beings are very messy.
Mm-hmm. Why?
Well, that is their job.
What is their job?
To be messy. There is no perfection in human beings. Their messiness, their imperfection is their perfection. Their ability to feel, to emote, to connect is their gift. And sometimes that becomes disastrous. Sometimes that becomes messy. And most times it is very, very beautiful to observe.
So do you observe humans then, and you find it beautiful?
We do observe humans.
I see, because I've heard that there are lots of spaceships that observe an individual human. Is that correct? That hover above Earth, or is it not? Does it not work that way?
It does work that way to some extent. When you say to an individual human, do you mean to each human has?
Does each human have a spaceship that's hovering above them?
No.
Okay.
No, we have other things to do. That's funny though. We are guides to certain humans that ask for our guidance.
And what could a human do if they ask for guidance from you guys?
Well, they could channel our energy. They could channel our higher consciousness. They could allow us to be advisors to them.
And what about people talking about a fake alien invasion? Would it be correct? Would there actually be an alien invasion? Or is that just something completely fake?
Pleidians have no interest in invading anything.
How do you feel about people talking about that?
I feel as though it is incorrect.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
There are entities and aliens everywhere. We do not know of any talks of invasions. However, one could argue that there are so many aliens and entities here on a regular basis that you're already invaded.
Oh, I see. Can you tell me about that?
Well, they are here, we are here. I'm here.
I see.
Yes, we walk amongst you daily. We live with you. And we enjoy Earth.
It's wonderful. So many clients that I've had want to be happier. What kind of advice would you give people wanting to be happier from what you see as you observe humans? How can a human be happier?
A human can be happier by stopping the argument for their own limitations.
Oh.
Human beings have a nasty habit of saying that they cannot, they are not allowed, they have no choices. And the truth is that they have everything available to them at all times.
So they need to understand this, and that way they would be happier. But what if they look around themselves and they see the lack, or they see something they don't have?
Well, find the abundance. Look at a tree. There are so many leaves on that tree. A tree never says, I wonder if all of these leaves will fall off. A tree just lets the leaves fall and then lets the new leaves grow. And that is an act of surrender and trust. And so, human beings could take a lesson from the tree and let what's not for them fall away so that something new can come.
Oh.
Remember that there is always an abundance. This entire universe is abundant.
That's beautiful. Thank you. What can a human do if they are sick?
Accept that they are sick. The minute you accept that you are sick, you can begin your healing process.
And any other advice for how they can begin their healing process?
By saying, I begin my healing process.
Well, what if somebody has a terminal illness or something like that?
If they have a terminal illness, they may have a contract to have that sort of expansion while here on earth. It is not for me to say, though. We don't know everyone's contracts or what they're here to experience, but we have found that human beings tend to perpetuate their illnesses and their disasters and their difficult times simply by not accepting what is happening to them.
So if you just accept your illness and then state that you are now healing, is that good enough?
That could be the beginning of the good enough. It's very deep. Resistance is very deep. It runs very deeply. So to accept where you are in any situation is to say, I'm not fighting where I am. If you're not fighting where you are, then you can change where you're going.
Oh, okay. So to have non-resistance, you can change where you're going?
Correct.
That's hard, though.
Right. Well, that is what you believe, then it will be hard.
Okay, so if you believe it won't be hard, then
Correct.
It won't be?
Right. And you could even say, I accept that getting rid of my resistance feels hard, but I'm healing now.
Okay. What about people that are sick with this current virus? Is there a purpose for them to be sick with this virus?
This specific virus?
Yes.
The only purpose we can see is that perhaps what they needed was to slow down.
Oh.
Illness is a great slower and allows you to pay attention to what is happening. That is the gift of illness.
So it can be a gift?
Everything is a gift if that's what you believe it is.
I see. Is there any way to prevent this virus?
To feel safe and to remind yourself that your body is smart and it knows what to do to heal.
And what if you already have the virus? Any way to heal faster?
By being aware that your body is smart and is capable of healing it. To trust your body to do its job is an issue that many humans have.
Oh, tell me about that.
Humans are in a state of questioning or hating or despising their bodies, and then they often wonder why their bodies turn against them.
No.
And it's because they are not friendly with their bodies. They have not made friends with their body.
How do you make friends with your body?
By believing in it, by being kind, by having compassion. It's the same way to be friends with another human.
I see. So many times humans are told to let things go, that everything in their life will get better if they let things go. What kind of advice would you like to give on how to let things go? It seems like a lot of humans hold on to all this negative stuff.
That is a very good question. Letting things go is an act of surrender. And to surrender to something, you must trust yourself and trust the bigger picture. And that takes practice. We would suggest starting with small things first.
So start with something small and try to let that go?
Correct.
Okay.
Something that won't cause huge ripples in your life, but you will be able to experiment with and see some real results.
I see. And how do you let that small thing go?
Simply by saying, I let you go, I release you.
Okay.
It's a practice.
That's good advice. Any advice for humans right now? with what is going on in the world?
There are so many things to advise upon. Our biggest advice would be to say that you are your own authority. You know what you need, and in many ways you deny yourselves what you need. But there is no reward in suffering. There's no high grade for being the one that suffers the most. You are here for ease. You are here for joy. You are here to do what you want to do and to have the life that you'd like to have.
Thank you. Any other advice?
No.